What's up, guys? It's the MIDCONVO podcast with Paul and Ed, and we are in Miami in my dining room with a special guest, Aya, and we're going to get into a lot today. But first, Ed, what do you think we're going to talk about?
Yeah, so Aya is a filmmaker director based in Bulgaria. She actually traveled 12 hours just to be on this podcast episode. So y'all better listen up. We're about to drop some gems. But also, we apologize in advance for some of the audio differences today. Like, we got Aya on the nice podcast microphone. I'm rocking like a gaff-taped Rode Lav right now, and then Paul is rocking like a Sennheiser Lav. But, you know, we really wanted to make this podcast episode happen, so we figured we would hop on the mics. So let's roll intro music.
All right, I first want to start this episode by shouting out our sponsors. Ed?
Ourselves?
Yeah, guys, actively looking for sponsors, but that's not what we're here to talk about.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about Aya. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here. I actually told Ed yesterday that I've been listening to that podcast since 2020. So it's really a full circle moment. I've been looking up to you both for a lot of time now. So really, thank you.
That's awesome. Yo, that's a day one.
That's cool. She's a day one MIDCONVO listener.
That's good.
Yep.
So, filmmaker based out of Bulgaria. You're also a director. I first want to hear a little bit about your story. Like, what got you to almost where you're at? If you can like sum it up in like a little bit here.
Okay, well, yeah, it's long story short, I got into photography when I was in high school. I was like 16, I think. And there was this photography club that was there so you can stay after hours. And I was so interested. Like the first time I saw like DSLR, I got the Canon Rebel T3R or something like that.
That's
yeah,
what I was rapping.
That's Paul's current camera.
Get out of here.
So yeah, I used that to travel a lot around the country, doing different workshops, like attending different workshops. And I was photographing like landscapes and such stuff.
Hey.
So yeah, nothing, really interesting. And after that, I actually studied architecture in Germany. So during that time, I was doing basically nothing with photography, although my heart was at it. And I in my free time, I would, watch so many YouTube videos. And, during that time on Instagram, all the content creators were doing a lot of travel and, that kind of era. So I really wanted to do that. And I saw someone who went to New York and flew on those helicopters that are doors off.
Yeah.
And I got obsessed with that idea. And
That's
I was
cool.
like, I want to go there and do that. So, architecture. So,
Yes.
So, yeah. And after 3 years there, I found some work at a bar, and I hate bars, photographing drunk people, and also a couple of weddings.
Yeah.
But this wasn't exactly the type of, content I wanted to pursue. So anyways, I told my parents, look, I want to study filmmaking. And they took it hard, but they were like, okay, can you, what's your idea? And I was like, I found this university in California. I want to try and transfer there. It didn't happen. It didn't work out. For 1 month, I prepared the whole portfolio and documents, but it was just pretty expensive. So it didn't happen, and it kind of really shook me and broke me. I was a bit depressed then because I hated my life in Germany, honestly. And I told them, look, give me 1 year. I want to come back to Bulgaria and just try to do this thing. I have no idea what exactly is going to happen, but just I want to try. And me and my dad had a lot of arguments on that. My mom was, kind of in the middle, but it was hard. Actually, a bit before that, I went to this conference in Canada, where Sam Coder and Chelsea Kawai and Renee Romings, influence. I don't want to call them influences though.
Yeah.
But yeah, so creators from that range were there. And I managed to do to connect on a personal level, because actually Chelsea, she studied architecture as well, and she then transferred to something else. And I really related with her on that. So we became good friends. She invited me to Hawaii and we kept in touch, and she was like, do you want to work with me? yes, yes, please, this would be my dream.
That's huge.
Yeah, and in 2020, I was supposed to be working for her. We were supposed to be traveling to Saudi Arabia at the start of the year, and then boom,
Oh
COVID hit.
man.
And again, all my dreams were kind of shattered. And it was a very hard year. Like, I had no work because I was still learning this whole craft. So, and I got back to Bulgaria. I took like a free year off university. And I watched all the courses and I read all the books I could find on the topic because I really wanted to learn. So that was that year, and I did a couple of, passion projects just to be able to show something to potential clients. And, working for free, that's, you know it.
Mm-hmm.
And actually it was 2021 that started,
Work started picking up.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of
that's
my
cool.
journey.
I think I'm curious, like, how long have you been the title of a filmmaker / director? Because I think people will look at your portfolio and be like, dang.
Yeah, we'll link your website in the
It's
description.
incredible.
You guys should check it out.
And I just want to shout out that, like, your attention to detail, your work's insane, and that's kind of why you're on the podcast.
Thank you.
Because I know we have listeners that are maybe even videographers or photographers that want to work with big teams or want to work on big projects, or they're maybe an aspiring filmmaker. Like, how many years have you been like pursuing it?
So I started pursuing it as a, from a business standpoint from like 3 years now. But the title, like, I was firstly photographer and filmmaker, and film director kind of happened last year. And I still feel weird, calling myself that, because, I'm self-taught. I don't have like a degree. So how am I that? So
Wow.
anyways, but you have to fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah.
But I did have the opportunity to direct some pretty big projects, which was incredible. And you're basically learning as you go, because no matter how many like courses or YouTube content you watch, like, experience is the best teacher. So you just have to put yourself out there, and having a great crew at the film set really helps, because you kind of see what everyone is doing and you're learning from that. So
That's good.
Can you name a few of the bigger projects that you really enjoyed? I don't know if you're like allowed to talk about them after the fact, but can you name some brands or projects you've done?
yes, of course. So I think the biggest one I did last year was for Corona. It's a short branded documentary called One with the Elements, and it's about a girl who is a paraglider and a glass artist, and the art she creates, she observes, like, she gets the inspiration flying, on a like paragliding. Yes.
That's cool.
And I actually pitched 3 different ideas to them because they were like on my list for like a year, and I really, really wanted to work with them. And the other 2 were more like surf related, but they were, because that's most of the content that they're putting out. But they were like, we want the one with the paragliding. That's like so unique. We've never heard a story like that. So we kind of made it happen. And actually, the story is about a very good friend of mine who actually is also my employee in the production company I work with. So she's a producer, but she also has this cool story, and we were like, let's do it.
That's awesome.
Oh.
Yeah.
How much time do you spend on like 3 treatments for a pitch to like a brand like Corona?
A lot of time. Yeah. Honestly, sometimes like ideas just show up in my head, and I'll just write them down in a notebook. And when I see a brand that maybe has some, share some similar values that we can connect to that idea, and I would write the treatment and, find the contacts, send them to them. But there are a lot of ideas I have that are just collecting dust in Canva.
Hey, Canva though.
Yeah, that's real though.
Yeah, so it's hard sometimes. I've tried to separate myself from the emotion I might feel for a certain idea, just because I don't want it to hurt every time. But it's kind of like you're applying for a job interview every single time, and you don't have that stability of, just getting the job, and you're doing that your whole life. It's just a roller coaster every time.
What do you feel like then keeps you like coming back? You know, like it is a roller coaster, and like you're always making new decks and you're always trying to land new clients. A lot of people might look at that and like, wow, that's tiring or that's exhausting. But obviously you love doing it. So can you explain a little bit like where you find your fuel to continue doing that?
That's a very good question. Well, I'd say if I didn't have the passion for that, I would never do it. Like, honestly, that's the answer, passion, because I'm working a lot, especially when I'm back home. I kind of, close myself in this creative bubble, and I'm in my office every day up until midnight. Then I go back to sleep at home, and then I go back to the office. So it's not fun. Like, I don't do fun projects every day, be on set, experience that whole thing that we're all craving, So it's a lot of work that no one sees, so that you're able to do a couple of those bigger projects.
Well, that's cool. I think there's probably people that are trying to connect the dots, because I think it's unheard of to have the breadth of work that you've been able to take on and create. Because like some of it's personal projects, but some of it's like brand commercial. And the amount of time that you've been a filmmaker / director. I want to go back to that for a second, because I feel like you mentioned, you're like, it's weird saying that I'm a filmmaker, and it's weird like owning that I'm a director, because I feel like as I've been growing as a photographer in the space of like health, wellness, and fitness, there was so many years where I thought, am I a professional photographer? Like, or, what am I? Am I an editorial? Am I a lifestyle? Am I a producer? Like, who is going to give me those? Who's going to like coin that term for me? Like, am I the one that does it based on my credibility? So I think that's like a huge thing that freelancers struggle with, is trying to figure out what to put in their Instagram bio. It's like, am I the director? Am I the filmmaker? Am I the videographer? What am I? But I'll just say right now that like, based on your work and like your experience, you 100% are like a director and filmmaker, because I know that there's people that are going to listen to this podcast and watch it on YouTube and probably have a lot of questions for you that are aspiring to be kind of where you're at. So
Thank you.
It's incredible.
You have, you said you have 2 production companies. So you have one in Bulgaria, and then you also have one in New York.
Yeah.
I'm like super actually interested in that and curious. Can you explain that structure a bit? Like, do you have an office in New York that with people putting together treatments and decks and going on set, or can you give us a little on the behind the scenes?
For sure. So I did start a company in Bulgaria, but I did that for 2021. And I would work through that, but most of my clients are actually either American or Canadian. I also have some, from Israel, China. So it doesn't really make sense for the company to be situated in Bulgaria. And mostly because a lot of people haven't heard about the country, and they have kind of wrong perception about it. Like, everything Eastern Europe is just Russia. So
Americans, man, we're always like, yeah,
Totally.
it's just Russia over there.
And some brands kind of treat you like, for example, I've heard, like, I'm saying I'm from Bulgaria, and then later in the conversation they're like, "Oh, are we going to shoot this in Belgium?" And I'm like, "What?" And also they give you smaller budgets because you're not based in the States. So
That's crazy.
yeah, they assume, everything is cheaper there.
Yeah.
And I hate that, honestly, and it's been a really great struggle. So because on top of that I'm a female filmmaker, I'm also coming from a country that no one has ever heard of. And you have to educate people, and it just gets complicated. So I was like, okay, I have a lot of, friends, connections in the US. So I want to be able to, come here and do certain projects. But then I'm not allowed because of my passport. So I talked with an immigration lawyer about what we can do, and there is this investor visa. It's called an E2 that you can apply for, and it's crazy. Like, when he told me the numbers that you have to invest, it's between 50 and 100,000 US dollars, so that you're able to start a business, get it going, make it marginal.
And it can go towards your business?
Yes, it has to.
Yeah.
But you have to spend
You have
it.
to like invest the money in the States to get that
Yes.
working visa.
Wow.
You
That's crazy.
basically pay for
Yeah, you basically have to
certain
pay 50 to
document.
100 grand to get here to work.
Exactly. So it's been an unfair start. You know, people who are born here, they just get to open an LLC and, you know, start.
Mhm.
And then I have to get 100 grand. Like,
Wow.
how does that happen? I'm still in the process, probably, you know, applying next month because the documents are so many. But I struggled with that a lot because, like, the first step is to open a company, then you have to open a bank account. But in order to open a bank account, you have to come here. And they don't really look at you very well when you, again, don't hold a US passport. They ask you a ton of questions. Are you going to laundry money?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what?
They're like, I'm just trying to make movies.
Exactly. So I had a great issue with that
Yeah.
because I actually managed to open the bank account. But then when I got back to Bulgaria, they called me from the bank and they said, your address is fake.
Wow.
And it's not. It's like, so you asked
It's a
me
PO
actually.
box or something?
It's actually a Regis office.
Oh,
so,
cool.
you can go like a co-working space. You can go from there. You can use that address for
Yeah,
your
totally.
business, but it's not mine. Like it's not a lease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, they said no, and I'm calling my lawyer, but they don't want to talk with me on the phone. So I'm emailing them back and forth for 3 hours because like I'm shaking. I don't know what to do. I just went to New York to open that and nothing.
Yeah.
And you can't go forward without that. And for 3 hours, they're explaining me over email that they won't accept a call with me because this is business advice and they don't give out business advice. Anyways, after all, I managed to talk with them. They were very rude and disrespectful, and
Yeah.
I'm paying them so much money. Like, can't you just help me out? And I was honestly on the ground crying after that call because it was extremely arrogant and rude. Like, it belittled me. Like, those are your decisions. We don't care. We can help you. So, yeah, it was very frustrating.
Wow.
And I was just like, okay, you have to suck it in and continue. So for the next few days, I was just researching online like crazy. What can I do? And it's very limited, the information that is on that. But anyways, I managed to find a bank that is for startups, an online thing. So I applied there, it worked. And then I started thinking, okay, how can I actually invest less, cash? And I thought about that a lot, consulted with other lawyers, blah, blah, blah. So the key, maybe if someone is, trying to do that, I'm telling you this for free, intellectual property.
Mm.
Because all those videos and ideas that I have done, they cost something, right?
Yep.
So I actually hired a company to, put a price on my films.
That's awesome.
That's dope.
Hey.
That's a
And
hack.
They said it would cost, the amount is about $60,000. So I'm
Dang.
like, okay, that's a relief.
Yeah.
I still don't know if it's going to work, but I think it will.
Wow.
Like, you
That's
just
cool.
have to make it work,
Yeah.
I guess.
Props to you for doing the research.
That's cool.
Thank you. Yeah. I think research, like on anything, like on any project that you want to do, even, it's so important. So,
That's amazing.
Dang, that's there's so many things that I want to like go into on that. They're just I was just so tuned into what your story and what you were saying that I'm trying to gather like that we're still on a podcast and I was trying to figure out what to say.
I think one thing that came to mind just even since you hopped on the mic is you're willing to invest into traveling to places where you know there's opportunity. And I think it took me a while as a freelancer or as a business owner to realize that when you invest into yourself in the right rooms, things are going to happen. And I think it's cool to hear that a lot of your work is from, the States, Canada, because most people almost feel like they're in a box. And I've had freelancers reach out to me before and they're like, there's no business in my city. Like, it's too saturated. Well, what the frick? Like, put your city on the map and then travel, go build like relationships.
yeah.
So like you brought up Chelsea Kwai, you brought up Sam Calder. Like, those are people that I feel like me and Ed have kind of had conversations with too over the years. And it's sweet because like you're not even like, you weren't born in the US. And those are people in the US that I have friends that would die to be in the same room as, but they're not willing to invest.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like, just like what Paul said, as creatives, we feel like we're in a box at times. Like, we're just in our room, in our home office, trying to make 6 figures as a creative, trying to think our way to success, right? Like, you're just trying to strategize all the business tactics, all the strategies. But to be honest, like, it's so valuable just to go out and travel, go out and connect with people without like fully knowing exactly what's going to happen, because great things will come from it. Just like you going to conferences in different countries to meet different people. Like Paul and I, we just went to LA to do MIDCONVO, like a trip, and that was like out of our own dime. But like the rooms that we were in and the conversations we had, we know are going to like somehow pay us back later tenfold. And it's just, creators don't get that. Like, just investing into even a workshop and getting there and meeting the people at that workshop could in some sort of way pay you back later. But if you don't make any of those decisions, you're just always going to be in the box. Like, your chances of succeeding are less now, you know, than just being exposed. Like, it's a percentage game. Like, if you expose yourself to more stuff, it's like averages, you'll have more chances at your name being thrown into something different. You know?
Definitely. Yeah. Like, the earlier in your life or in your career you learn that you have to invest in yourself, and that's going to change things up for you, whether that be like, and I don't mean gear, like put that like, this should be the last on your list, I think, although I'm a gear fanatic. But
Paul ain't.
Sorry, that's it.
Hey, Paul ain't though. He's not. He's still shooting on a T3i.
Yo, check out our episode on does gear really matter? It's a good episode.
It is.
no, I mean, you can always rent for different projects, but your knowledge and your experiences you can buy, so, and you can't really put a price to. So even that conversation that we're having right now, we wouldn't be having it if I wasn't in the workshop. And like on the freelance photographer, like, you should establish personal connections with people if you want to, you know, be friends with them later. It doesn't just happen if you DM someone and you're like, hey, I really love your work, let's do something together. Like, that doesn't work. Yeah.
I personally found it so inspiring when you were saying like all the struggles that you went through being in Bulgaria and where you were in Germany, and just like the struggle you're going through right now to try to land this work in America. And there's all these creatives in America that, I mean, this is a really insightful episode for anyone who's international listening in, and also for people who are in America. It's like a huge
100%.
Perspective shift, because people are complaining like not getting work, all those things. But like the fact that you're in the States and you can get paid in that currency is like, you're already ahead of the game, to be honest. If you're trying to work with a US based brand that has presence here and work on documentary films or like commercial, like, you already have the upper advantage on the rest of the world because you're in the country of where that brand is.
That's facts.
And like, people don't get that. That's already like the lottery ticket to be born in America for that.
Definitely.
So I think for me, that's like a huge perspective shift. Like, dang, I went from being like in a deficit to being grateful, you know? And like, I think that's really cool that you mentioned that and shared that struggle, because not a lot of people will talk about, even currency exchanging. Like, you know, you're in Bulgaria and they're not willing to pay you like maybe the US money, even though you're working for a US brand on a commercial like internationally, which is crazy.
Yeah, it is. It really has been crazy. Like, I've honestly been working with, you know, big brands, big names, and people are asking me, well, how, like, you don't have a big audience on Instagram, like, how do you even do that? So anyways, it's just difficult, and it's definitely, you have more opportunities here. So having, you know, a US company really opens doors, because when they hear Bulgaria, again, they're skeptical. And but still, it's been hard, because I do get asked all the time from, you know, when I do discovery calls with clients, so where are you based? And when I say, well, I travel there, I'm here, but, you know, I'm kind of all over the place. I really haven't I don't have an answer for that for myself.
Traveling director, filmmaker.
Because you're torn, because you've mentioned the struggle of saying, hey, I'm from Bulgaria.
Yeah. You kind of want to put first that you have a company in New York, and then if they don't ask where you're from, better not say it, because, you know, they're like, just find it weird.
I want to pick this apart quick. So you kind of shared what it's like to be from Bulgaria as a filmmaker. But like, what is it like being a female filmmaker, female entrepreneur in Bulgaria? Like, is it common to be a filmmaker or a director in Bulgaria?
So Bulgaria as a country is small, like we are 7 million. Although, so the creative community is not so big, but there are, young people like me who are really into it and they're trying. In Sofia, there is actually a New York film set and sound stages. It's called Nubuyana, and a lot of from the Hollywood movies actually get filmed there.
Cool.
So a lot of people work for that. But then the directors, they're from the older generation, mostly men, they have a degree, and it's pretty hard to get into that. So you have to create opportunities for yourself. No one, is going to offer you something.
There's not going to be a handout. Yeah.
Exactly. And about being a woman in that industry, and I think in general, that's kind of a global issue, because the problem comes from itself that we have to define it. We have to say female filmmaker. We don't say male filmmaker. We don't say male entrepreneur or boy boss, but we say girl boss and all that stuff. So society hasn't, society defines that as atypical. And it's pretty hard. Being a woman in a leadership position, you're just not treated the same. And some of the brands I've worked with, they have, for example, the brand representative, he's a man in his 50s, and the arrogance that I've sensed from that, like I'm hired as director, but then my vision and opinion doesn't matter. Like they just tell me, you're going to do that. I receive like contracts that I'm afraid to sign, honestly.
Wow.
So it's been really hard to kind of prove to the world that you're worth it and your voice matters. So I've had projects where they would send a male supervisor just because, someone who knows what they're doing should be on set.
Wow.
And I don't mean like a producer from the company. I mean a filmmaker who is not related to the company. So yeah, it's definitely a hard topic to unpack.
It's real, and I feel like it's inspiring to have you on the podcast, because I know there's a lot of female listeners and people that we rub shoulders with that are in the industry that kind of share how they're not taken as serious as a female entrepreneur, or especially photographer, videographer, filmmaker. And you're kind of paving that way, and it's not easy. So I applaud you for that. I'm curious, like, what's the thing that you feel like has helped people take you more serious then? Is it your portfolio? Is it doing like personal projects that, you can like add to your portfolio in order to like kind of balance it out? Is it your network? Is it a combination?
Actually, it's probably going to surprise you if I tell you that the better my portfolio has become, the less work I've been able to get. Just because now that you're so niche and, people see the content, like brands, and they assume that this costs so much money to make. So they're like, okay, we want someone who can do less, like on a lower level.
Yeah.
I actually hired a contractor. She's in Canada, and a very good friend of mine, to send pitches to brands. So we've been sending like 50 a week or something.
50 pitches a week?
Yeah, because I just don't have the time now, because I'm managing the company. I have like two employees, but still, I have to see what they're doing. But yeah, anyways, it's just, sorry, what was your question?
No, I think you said it. You said that the more you post on your portfolio, the less work you get.
Yeah, so how I make them, listen to me, I guess. So you have to put boundaries and also be very direct in your communication.
Wow.
Like sometimes I have the problem of being too kind, and I'm like, oh, yes, I understand that. Of course, no worries. We're going to fix that. No. You have to act like you're the strong one in the room, and just learn to say no. And basically just stand your ground. When they treat you like, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but like when they treat you like you don't remain kind. Like you have to express that they're treating you badly. And, you can't have a brand just saying, we really want to work with you. Can you, draw a couple of concepts? And I do that. And then they say, we love the ideas. And I'm like, okay, so like, they're like, we need that by the 1st of April. But after a week, they're like, oh, actually, we don't have the budget for that. And I'm like, just losing that time. And that happened twice in a recent communication with a client. And I was like, you know what? I don't like that, communication that we're having right now. And I want to understand what's the problem. Because they expressed that we're not going to go forward with that concept. And I was like, tell me what exactly is the problem. I think I listened to you very well.
Yeah.
And what you want. And they're like, oh, actually, it's not the concept that's the problem. We just don't have the budget to prioritize that now. And I'm like, okay, you're just saying a couple of different things.
Yeah, you're wasting my time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just to make me feel bad, because firstly they said it was the concept. And it turns out it's them. That's
Wow.
I give you props for like calling that out, that you got to be direct in those situations, because most people aren't willing to. And I feel like that's where people get taken advantage of. And also, like, you've gotten your reps in and you've been able to get that experience. So your confidence on those calls, whether it's over a Zoom call or a phone call or even like over email, is at a point where you can stand your own ground. And you can kind of back it up and be like, you know what? No, this isn't it. Like, this is the budget, or we're not working together. Or, hey, if you don't start communicating with me better, then we're not going to work together. That's good.
Yeah, that's so fire. It's honestly really great advice for any up and coming creative, just because, it's true. Like, I've been in also conversations earlier on where brands won't respect the creative as much. And they'll say like, oh, actually, like, we're not going to move forward with this idea, or like, we actually decided to move in a different direction, all those things, right? But then the thing is, as a creative, when you're early on and you're just like teetering on like your own confidence, you're now feeling like, dang, was my idea whack? Or like, is my work not good? Like, my concept, was it bad? And you start to not acting in the same way you would.
Exactly.
Versus, like you said, brands usually just either don't have the budget or the infrastructure, but they don't want to take the fall that like they didn't account for the budget, and they don't want to be like, oh, we just don't have money. So they put it on the creative. So I think it's so valuable that you do that, like, hold your ground. That's like a huge gem, in my opinion, of this episode, for sure.
That's good.
Yeah, you just start doubting yourself when you are, especially in the beginning, and you hear all those no's, and you're like, okay, there must be something wrong with me. And about that confidence, actually, we were talking earlier that I'm an introvert, so that's been very hard for me. Before a call, I put my glasses and I'm like, okay, let's do it. I'm so anxious of talking.
Yeah.
So it's really taken a lot of practice and effort to be, stronger in those communications. And I'm Sally, I've allowed to be used. Like, I've done a project, I can't name which one, but the editing took 5 months.
Wow.
5 months?
Yeah, because the brand representative, and that's not the fault of the brand, I think it's the representative. Like, we can't blame the whole brand for that.
Yeah, it's like the agency or the representative.
Yeah, and we went through 19 versions because they just didn't know what they want, and kept changing that and stuff. And in the end, I said, okay, you're using me, and if this doesn't stop, I'm going to call it up to say online what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Just going to post everywhere I can.
Yeah, I'm gonna blow you up.
Exactly.
I'm gonna expose you, she said.
Exactly.
Dang.
I said that.
Tell me why I be thinking about that sometimes.
Me too, sometimes.
No, it was just a lot.
Wow. I'm tight. By the way, I'm exhausted just hearing. I'm sorry. That's a long editing.
19 visions in 5 months.
And actually, the boss of that representative, he saw the email and, he answered, and he was very respectful after that.
Wow.
Because he knew, like, potential fire.
Exactly.
He just crisis averted.
So after that, we only did one other edit and we were done.
See, you held your ground. Dude, I'd be beefing after 2 revisions, dude.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I got a question for you. Has there been a personal project that you feel like has really helped you in kind of where you are today? Like, is there a spec project that you've done? Because me and Ed always talk about sometimes the spec work's the best work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually second thinking my Nike spec sheet on my website. I feel like brands be saying that and being like, damn, we can't work with Paul.
Oh, true.
But
yeah,
no, so
that was interesting. Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm learning from you in that, because I think there comes a point, if I can go back for a second, where when your portfolio looks freaking stacked, yeah, you're not going to get reached out to as much. So maybe you find reps, maybe you find agents, maybe you find someone like you did that can help with sending out pitches, outsourcing that, because your time can be spent in other areas. But has there been a personal project where you're like, this is one of my proudest projects I've done?
Yeah, definitely. So like passion projects are just so important. Even forget about the portfolio. You just have to do something that is out of, work related content, just to be able to express what you truly want to put out in the world. So I think I do like one every year. Back in 2021, that was a Kyrgyzstan documentary I did.
Wow.
And I just reached out to, the travel...
Tourism board?
Yeah, exactly. They didn't sponsor it. Like, they took us around, but it wasn't, like, paid. I paid for my own flights and everything.
Wow.
And I made this project, like, about the culture there and everything. And when I would reach brands with that project later, they were just so amazed, because it's something so different. Like, who goes to Kyrgyzstan to film something? Like, most people, I don't know, they hit Bali or Iceland.
Yeah. Wow. That's
Um,
bro. Not every creative wanting to go to Bali and Iceland. If I was listening to this right now and that was on my bucket list,
That's
I'd
a
be
mic
like,
drop
I'd be
moment.
like, that's shots fired right there. Influencers in the wild.
No, I also love those places.
No, me too. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think actually something that's really helped me when I write concepts or like treatments or ideas, for brands, is to think of it from a unique perspective. You just have to mix, the common ingredients together just to make something unique. So that's why the Corona doc was, I don't want to say so good, because, I've done it and it feels weird, but they liked it so much because, we have a paraglider. There's probably documentaries on paragliding. There are probably documentaries about glass art, but there isn't a documentary that combines both.
Wow.
So you have to hit those spots.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Dang.
Dude, there's so many good parts of this pod already.
My follow-up question you can totally say no to this, but me and Ed on recent episodes with guests, we've asked, has there been a project that was like an aha budget moment where you're like, dang, that budget though?
Yeah, where you're like, this is the most amount of money I've ever seen.
Yeah, and obviously I know that you work with a crew for some of these shoots, but has there been a budget that was kind of an aha moment for you in your career?
Yeah, definitely. Last year was, the biggest year for me when I managed to hit the 6 figures.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Nice.
But I'm aiming higher than that. Like, I really want more. Like, money is definitely a big motivator. So when you get a project that pays, I don't know, multiple 5 figures, and you're like,
yeah.
When I think about my first, I don't know, photography gig that I did, I probably got, what, $50, $100? And like comparing
I got
that,
a gift card, Starbucks gift card. I'm like, the frick?
yeah, but you were still feeling so good back then, because you were doing something. And now if I was asked to do something like that, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you start seeing those numbers and you're like, okay, there might be something in that. So yeah, I definitely, like, my goal is to make this business like a multi-million business. I really want that. And I know it's going to take time and I have to, stay patient and realistic. But my goal for this year is if I can hit like 200 or 250,000, that would be amazing.
That's sweet.
Yeah, because like my goal and for the future, like I'm 24 right now, so
wow, what?
Dang. That just caught me off guard, low key.
I knew you were like young, and that's crazy.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you. I mean, I'm still feeling kind of weird that I'm turning 25 in the summer, and I don't know, people kind of assume that after 25 you should start figuring things out. Anyways,
That's funny.
So my goal is to kind of like, I don't know, in probably 5 years' time to manage to step out of the business. Like, have a team that is able to handle, the smaller or medium projects, and I just step in for the bigger ones because I really want to go into narrative. I don't want to be doing commercials my whole life. And I have a screenwriting mentor. He's called Greg Rosati, so shout out to him.
Awesome.
He writes, films and series for HBO and, such things. He actually helped me a lot with the Corona spot that we did.
Wow.
And we do a weekly call where, we just talk about storytelling, building an arc, characters, all those things that are very important in whatever type of content you're making.
Yeah.
And we are currently writing my first short narrative film.
That's so cool.
I'm very excited about that. Want to do like a feature next year if that happens successfully this year. And then one day do like a TV series for Netflix or something. And then I would say, okay, I've made it in life.
Tell me why I feel like it's not far out to get like one of your projects on like Netflix.
Dude, yeah.
That's awesome.
Can I just say, like, that's why I love having these conversations with people in the podcast, because we're recording cameras and audio, and like when that time comes and you do have your first like TV show, we'll have clip from years ago when you said, wow, I hope we could do that one day.
This is the intellectual property that we can sell.
Yes. Yeah. I
Yo,
love
the
that.
price went up on the podcast episode.
Oh,
Full
man.
circle.
Shoot. Okay, so I think we should kind of wrap up the podcast around here. I think it's a good like wrapping point. Is there any advice that you would give to maybe someone who's in their early 20s, or just like even in a creative journey where they feel like no clients, not sure what their official title is, and just feel like they have all the cards stacked against them, which I feel like you came out of certain situations like that. Do you have any advice that you'd give them?
Yeah, there is actually a quote by Alex Hormozy.
Yeah, I love that guy.
Yeah, I think he said that on his podcast, outwork your self-doubt. And I think that's big, and it really resonated with me because I used to, and I still do, doubt myself a lot. Like, is this for me? Can I do that? But then no matter how big, the problem might be, just go step by step and it will all, kind of fall into place. So just, believe that it's going to happen. Everything is possible. Like when you hear no, just, it's possible. Like everything can be done in this world. So, and keep pushing. Like you have to be organized and just do work daily, like a little by little, like with workouts. You just don't do one and be done. You have to work out every day.
Consistency.
Same with work. Yeah. So I think those are my biggest, this is my biggest advice. And this is a cutie.
No, that's awesome.
Cypress, Paul's dog just came into frame. Cypress.
What's up, Sight?
Fam's waking up.
What's up, B? No, that's so money, and I also love you. I just like learned so much about you on this episode, even like that you listen to Alex Hormozy. That guy's a beast. But no, we really enjoyed you being on this episode, and I'm inspired. I mean, I'm taking
super
away a lot of
inspired, yeah.
details, like golden nuggets that you dropped. Where can people find your work? Where can people connect with you if they found value from this?
Thank you very much, you too. Firstly, it's been really an honor. And about work, I think Instagram would be the best place to find me. I still haven't cleared, just the Aya handle, maybe one day, but lost in Aya land for now.
Cool.
That's where you can find me.
Cool.
That's awesome.
We'll link it in the show notes if you guys in the description.
What's your website that people can find you at too?
Yeah, my website is at untoldfilms.co or lostinireland.com.
Yo, check it out. She just got her website updated.
Dude, it's fire.
It's
fire.
dialed.
When Paul sent me, because I didn't know Aya beforehand, and Paul was like, hey, we should have Aya on the podcast. She's going to be at the workshop. We just had a workshop yesterday in Miami with a bunch of people, and I was like, okay, let me check out her website. Saw it, and I was like, dude, this is sick. There's like,
So good.
I was super inspired, and so I'm really glad you came on the podcast, and yeah, so many gems in this one.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for being on the podcast today.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
And also, Ed, shout out to our sponsors.
All right, so today's sponsor is ourselves. once
I
again.
love that.
Once again. So if you're listening to this and you really want to help us pay the bills, hit us up. Okay.